Welcome back to 2323 Radio Cacophony, your home for the best hits of the 2010s. Today's top 40 is going to be counting down just that, in fact. The best of the best, the cream of the crop. And, okay, look, we ain't got time to do any retrospecting on what the 2010s were as a decade in popular music. I've got 10 whole videos worth of that, they ain't going anywhere. No, today it's about the songs and only the songs. And if you've seen any of my previous top 10 lists, well, you may as well toss them all in the trash, or at least throw out your expectations. Not only have my taste changed dramatically in the 5 years since I started doing this, hell, even in just the past year alone, but my philosophy in putting together this list was a lot different than it has been for any of those top 10s. See, I'm kinda spoiled for choice here. There were way more than 40 excellent year-end hits this decade, 74 by my reasonably harsh grading curve, in fact. So not only does a song have to be something I enjoy, something I feel strongly about, but it has to be something I'd want to return to in 1, 5, hell, even 20 or more years from now. It has to have that special something that sets it apart from any other song. That special something that gives me a reason to want to return to it. It has to be a song that I want to come back to time and time again. There's plenty of songs I've put on best lists that I just don't really care about anymore, including songs that placed as high as number 3, number 2, even number 1. Yeah, again, expect to be surprised. Hell, even I'm surprised at how a lot of this list turned out. And the other major factor that probably influenced the shape of this list, I am just in a better place mentally in the past year than I've been in a long time. Happier than ever, you could say, or at the very least, more at peace with myself. Yeah, so the music I'm gravitating to right now is a lot more uplifting and a lot less dour, and I think this list reflects that. What can I say? I am not the same creature that I was 5 years ago, literally. But really, at the end of the day, a song is on this list because I wanted it on this list. These are the 40 hits I want to remember the most, to come back to whenever I have the itch to revisit the 2010s in popular music. A playlist of good memories and great tunes. I think at the end of the day, that's what I've curated here. Maybe not the best hits of the 2010s, but my favorites. And isn't that what all best lists really are when you get right down to it? And on that note, I'm not really here to justify why a song is on the list, to defend my picks, to tell you why you should like it, nor am I gonna waste any breath trying to explain why any given song isn't higher. Because let's be frank, I'd have to do that for like half the songs here otherwise. Nah, I'm just gonna tell you why I like the song, what it means to me, and then move right along to the next one. Again, this video is gonna run long, we gotta cut corners somewhere. Some of the songs on this list are practically cliche to put on a decade in retrospective like this. Some of these picks are gonna surprise you, though what missed the cut might surprise you even more. And I'd be shocked if you agree with every last pick here, but it's my list, and I, at the very least, feel like all these songs are solid gold. Which, on that note, number 40. Well, I ain't a player, I ain't a hustler, and I definitely ain't a gangster, but, peck it, we ball. Put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 Karat Magic is Bruno Mars' best hit, period. And I honestly don't think that's a particularly controversial statement. Uptown Funk, great song. If I never heard it again in my life, I wouldn't complain. Locked Out of Heaven, also awesome. Get that biblically good pussy, my brother. The style just ain't quite my favorite. Finesse might have taken this spot if Silk wasn't such a colossal letdown, but 24 Karat Magic tops them all, and it's mostly because there just hasn't really been anything else like it since. First, take your sip, do your dip, spend your money like money ain't shit. Ooh, ooh. The sparkling and colorful synth production already puts it past all his pastiches soundtracked by guitars and slap bass, but even more than that, this is the most fun Bruno's ever had on any of his hits. Man's throwing himself into this goofy as hell song with as much charisma as he can muster, and it's just an absolute delight to listen and jam along to. The kind of over-the-top indulgence and glamour and opulence that makes you feel cool just for having heard it. Thank God for Bruno Mars, I say. Number 39. A few people asked me where a certain song was on my worst of the 2010s list, and, well, here it is. It's you, babe, and I'm a sucker for the way that you move, babe. I mean, y'all saw this coming if you watched my 2018 best list. Never Be the Same tastes so good when you ain't got a YouTuber in a year telling you it's nasty. Too busy putting Camila's over the top belting in my ears instead, sorry. Like, it really all does come down to that hook. One of the best and catches of the decade. Such a good melody. The kind that practically begs you to sing along every time. Speaking in LA when the lights are low. Off for one touch, I could overdose. And like, yeah, this is pretty much just a Sia song, which, well, more on that later, except that Camila Cabello is absolutely not a Sia-level talent as a singer. But if she's ever cared more about the song she's singing, I haven't heard it. I love how she has 3 different modes here: sensual and sultry on the verses, passionate and euphoric on the chorus, and practically out of breath from how overwhelmed she is by her feelings of love on the pre-chorus. You're in my blood, you're in my It's a song that flips the downbeat and dour atmosphere of 2018 on its head to deliver a soaring proclamation of love set to the kind of lush and stuttering pop production that I'm just an absolute sucker for. Maybe it's my strange addiction, but hell, if I'm gonna be addicted to something, at least it's the kind of drug I'll never be able to overdose on. Number 38. Yeah, I'll be frank. This one's here because Mark from Spectrum Pulse sold me on it, but like, can you blame me when it's just so good?
Wow, wow, wow. Love, tell me how you feel. What's your fantasy, yo? I see it's on the beach down in Mexico.
So Good is the kind of song that proves that B.O.B. never even needed Bruno on Nothing on You. In fact, Bruno might have been holding him back, teaming up with Ryan Tedder to bring the kind of loose swaggering groove that lets the man be an absolutely charming cornball on the verses, the kind of guy you know is really only looking for a good time, yet comes on so strong you can't help but get swept off your feet anyways. Also, it's incredibly funny.
I'm to the point like the pyramids of Giza.
Giza? And, funny in hindsight, too.
Spin the globe, wherever it lands, that's where we'll go.
B.O.B. confirmed globe acknowledger. All jokes aside, So Good works quite well because B.O.B. promises to fly you around the world, then provides a chorus so soaring and grandiose that you're practically forced to believe it. The kind of song that sounds like looking down on the biggest, gaudiest cities from miles above. Feels like living that lavish lifestyle that so many of us yearn for and yet so few ever get to experience. It's fun, it's funny, it's glamorous, it's romantic, it's just too good of a time to possibly deny. Number 37. And while we're on the topic of glam rap designed to raise the listener up rather than flex on them, the empowerment anthem is a much beloved trope in modern music, and honestly for good reason. Most of them end up coming off really condescending and preachy from artists who sound like they've never struggled a day in their lives. And that's exactly where the show goes on succeeds, because Lupe Fiasco digs into his struggle, tells you how he overcame it, and then invites you to join in on the show and rise above anyone and everyone trying to keep you down.
Africa to New York, Haiti then I detour, Oakland out to Oakland, Gaza Strip to Detroit.
And so many of his bars are on point. The Gaza Strip line in particular has aged, I don't want to say well because the reasons why are not great, but it helps cement that Lupe actually cares, always did care, even when practically no one else did. It's a humble, down-to-earth message of perseverance that paints itself up in the aesthetics of opulence to make you feel like a winner. Like anyone can attain that same level of success if they just let the show go on, wherever it takes them. It just sounds so grand and glorious, man.
Race them till your arms tired, let them know you there, that you struggling, surviving, that you gon' persevere, yeah.
And that bridge, God, it's one of the most reaffirming things I've ever heard. Just, yes, thank you, Lupe. And on top of all of that, the show goes on as the rare sample flip that actually works, that actually makes sense, that builds on the message of its sample. It feels earned. Lupe earned that sample, and the song itself makes me feel like he earned every last bit of his success, too. Bless you and Godspeed, my man.
Anybody ever wonder when they would see the thunder? Just remember when it come up, the show goes on.
Number 36. You know, I was worried this one wasn't gonna cut as deep 5 years down the line, but nope, still lands just as hard as ever. That's gotta say something, right?
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Say Something is a song that has, like, the soundscape and style of the generic sad scene 2/3 of the way through a movie. That's specifically what it sounds like. And, like, okay, I barely watch movies, but I've always been a sucker for those scenes, and I ain't gonna apologize for it. You can call it shallow and simple all you want, but that doesn't make it any less heart-wrenching.
And I will swallow my pride.
A Great Big World's Ian Axel and Christina Aguilera have shockingly good chemistry together as they sing over soaring strings and the slow and steady piano that sounds like the ticking of a clock, the symbolic representation of the time that's running out for the two estranged lovers to rekindle the dying flames of their relationship until they both realize it's too late and there's naught left to save but ashes of what could have been. I get chills listening to it. Maybe it is cheesy, maybe it's trying too hard to bait an emotional response, but if it makes me feel something, it makes me feel something, man.
Say something.
Number 35. You know, for as big into guitar music as I am, it may come as a surprise that there's not all that much rock on this list. I don't know, man. I've heard so much of it that the more accessible side of the genre really interests me all that much. And it doesn't help that a lot of 2010s rock picked up some really ugly synthetic tones that I just do not vibe with. That's why, say, Carry On by Fun didn't make this list. No, to land for me, you gotta make a song that's organic, warm, and, well, fun. In like, the actual sense of the word. Just play the song.
Don't listen to a word I say.
Granted, Little Talks is way more of a folk song than anything. Literal stomp, clap, hey music, accentuated by Of Monsters and Men's exuberant brass section, but all that really does is lend the song its timelessness, like it could have come out at any point in the past 30 years, or more, and sound exactly the same. It's warm, it's inviting, it's upbeat, it's exciting, it's just the kind of music that feels good to listen to. Expect a lot more of that coming up, y'all.
Some days I can't even trust myself.
It's killing me to see you this way.
And this message is just as timeless, as is its classic trope of sad song that sounds happy, where the details are thinly sketched enough that you could apply it to basically any feeling of separation or loss, but there's just enough detail there that the song's true nature, its tale of trying to overcome grief, to choose life even in the presence of death, shines through brightly, and by God does it shine.
Now wait for me. Please hang around. I'll see you when I fall asleep.
By the time that climax hits, I'm just, God, this is the kind of music that makes me happy to be alive, man. I may not love Little Talks like some of the songs further up on this list, but that doesn't mean I don't still love it, and I'm sure it's gonna sound just as good as ever 30 years down the line.
Though the truth may vary, this ship will carry our bodies safe to shore.
Number 34. I mean, as someone who's lived in Seattle for close to a decade now, you just know I had to rep for my city somehow.
You don't want no beef, boy.
Downtown is probably in contention for the lamest song ever made. For one, it's a blatant retread of Macklemore's breakthrough hit Thrift Shop, mashed up with the much less noteworthy White Walls. He buys a cheap moped, slaps white walls on it, and goes cruising around downtown Seattle feeling so swag, so gangsta, that he imagines a whole crew of 80s rappers rolling up beside him to be his posse.
Downtown, cruising through the alley, tiptoeing in the street like ballet.
Which, like, it'd be so easy for Mac to embarrass himself with a premise this goofy, but by God does he own it. I love Downtown so much because it's basically just a song about being cringe but free, which is like my whole thing. Music should be allowed to be this fun about reservation. Like, man's just having the time of his life here, and damn if he isn't funny as hell, too.
Going 38, Dan, chill the fuck out, mow your damn lawn and sit the hell down.
And of course, there's just so much song for your song here. It's a level of ambition rarely matched on the pop charts. Ryan Lewis has always been Macklemore's unsung hero behind the production desk. Eric Nally is absolutely throwing himself into his hook. The posse members all sound like they're having a ball off their cheesy as hell bars. The vibes in that studio must have been immaculate, man. It's just a big, dumb, happy song that puts a big, dumb, happy grin on my face from start to finish. Cringe has never sounded cooler. Number 33. So, this next song was a complete ghost on its original list. Didn't show up at all. I just didn't get the big deal at the time, but when I was rewatching a lot of those old best lists in preparation for this video, it kept popping up on most all of them, and the more times it did, the bigger the intrusive feeling got. Wait, this song rules?
I got no rules, I count them.
Why did I finally come around on New Rules? Maybe it's because I've been steadily growing more of a taste for dance music, and for house in particular over the past few years, and the groove on this song is absolutely pristine. Maybe it's because lately I've also been giving myself new rules to follow. Not in love, mind you, but in life. The kind of tenets to follow that would help put me in a much better place over the past year or so. Maybe it's just because, and I'm definitely just repeating something I heard someone else say here, but that ascending melody throughout the pre-chorus, absolutely brilliant.
One, don't pick up the phone. You know he's only calling cause he's drunk and alone. Two, don't let him in. You have to kick him out again.
Dua Lipa is an artist I've heard lots of people say lacks personality, and while I wouldn't say she's overflowing with charisma, there's always been one thing she's exceptionally good at: radiating confidence. She knows who she is, she knows how she feels, she knows what she wants, and by golly does she know how to get it. One step at a time, one day at a time, until she becomes the person she wants to be. And isn't that just plain hot? The kind of woman you want to see yourself in? Maybe that's just me. One of my new rules is not caring as loud as what anyone else thinks about me, so you'll just have to get over it. Number 32. Okay, so I postulated in my worst hits of the 2010s video that XXXTentacion unbelievably playing the role of an abuser was why Sad really got under my and so many other people's skin, but I think I need to add a caveat to that. The song's real problem was playing the role of an abuser without condemning it.
Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. But that's alright because I like the way it hurts.
Look, I get it, Eminem sucks, and Love the Way You Lie being a hit at all, much less a #1 hit that was blasted over the airwaves for months, even with Rihanna's consent and blessing, there's something skeevy about that, right? And I was sure, absolutely positive, that after putting together what was essentially a 3-hour Chris Brown hit piece, that revisiting this now was gonna rub me the wrong way too, but, nope, still just as horrifyingly compelling as ever.
Wait, where you going? I'm leaving you. No, you ain't come back. We're running right back. Here we go again.
And I already did the probably way too deep analysis of this song, practically line by line, back in my original 2010 video. I'm not gonna repeat all of that here, but even now, I'm still just so impressed at how thorough and damning a deconstruction of the mentality and abuser this song is. One that does absolutely nothing to exonerate them, puts any and all the blame squarely on them, and actively undercuts them and fights back against their worldview at every chance it gets.
You swore you'd never hit him, never do nothing to hurt him. Now you're in each other's face, spewing venom in your words when you spit him.
Where the only damning thing I can say about it is that Rihanna's hook, while in context merely a reflection of how an abuser sees their victim, is way too easy to take out of context in a way that reinforces the wrong kind of person's worst beliefs. It comes from a place of good intention, sure, but it's undeniably irresponsible, and if anyone hated the song because of it, I wouldn't blame them. It's not perfect, and I won't claim it is.
You're the same as me when it comes to love. You just as blinded. Baby, please come back. It wasn't you, baby, it was me.
And Eminem himself was under no obligation to treat the subject matter with any level of respect, either. His whole shtick was, and still is, being flagrantly disrespectful towards anything and everyone. But Love the Way You Lie came out just before M devolved to non-stop flexing of his talents, so he turns in one of his most straightforward and yet emotionally evocative performances. One he can sell so well because of his own well-publicized disaster of relationship, of which I am also going to make no effort to excuse or exonerate him for. Like I said, Eminem sucks. But Love the Way You Lie, it's horror done right. The kind that makes you feel unwell, even just watching it from afar. God damn it.
Love the way you lie. I love the way you lie.
Number 31. I mean, we just got done with one hashtag problematic fave, might as well not got the other one too.
Want you to see all of the lights. Fast cars, shooting stars, all of the lights, all of the...
And let me just state, for the record, fuck Kanye West. We clear? We cool? Good. Now then. I don't like that I still like this song. I don't like that it's such a banger. I don't like that it's one of the best produced hits of the decade. Top 5 at the very least. I don't like that it's so deeply rooted in Kanye West as a person that it's impossible to ignore his presence on it. And I'm thanking my lucky stars that Runaway wasn't a bigger hit, because I'd have to put it embarrassingly high here if it was. But there's just something compelling about All the Lights all the same.
I slapped my girl, she called the feds. I did that time and spent that bread.
Like, you can listen to this song and understand exactly what kind of person Kanye West is and how he got to where he is now. A man so completely and thoroughly unable to handle the pressure of fame, the harsh glare of the spotlights turned on him, yet every time he cracks under the pressure and lashes out, it just gets more eyes on him, making his problems worse, a self-perpetuating death spiral that looped so hard in on itself it came out the other side. A man now so desperate to keep eyes on him as the quality of the music declines that he has to be increasingly more and more provocative, well past the bounds of both the socially and morally acceptable.
She need a daddy, baby please, can't let her grow up in that ghetto university.
And you can understand that the Kanye that exists within the song is at least sympathetic, sure, someone who is trying to improve, but he's still clearly the villain of his own story. One who eventually escaped the boundaries of the art and leapt out into the real world, and there's no putting him back in. You can't close Pandora's box once it's been opened, and you can't clean the stains out of the art itself either. The art and the artist are well and thoroughly inseparable.
Turn up the lights and young baby, extra bright, I want y'all to see me.
It is entirely possible that all of this is moral grandstanding to try and justify why a song I like so much primarily because of how unhinged it sounds is here when, by every conceivable metric, it should have been blackballed from contention entirely, but, well, I already went over my philosophy regarding the difference between current day and retrospective analysis at the start of my 2011 video, and I still stand by that, so I can't in good faith leave the song off this list, but I also can't recommend you seek it out either. You use an ad blocker if you do, I guess.
I got to
got a bit too real in those last two segments. Let's lighten the mood a bit with our first round of rapid fire honorable mentions, shall we? Here's a bunch of songs that were never really in serious contention for this list, but I just really wanted to get one less word in on, presented in roughly chronological order, starting with... Animal's a bit too basic for me to truly love, but it's probably the best of this strand of indie rock flavored hits this decade. A song that sells itself on the strength of how goddamn hard Neon Trees frontman Tyler Glenn goes on it. He is the song, and it really is that good. Also, this and the Maroon 5 song are exactly as horny as each other, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Ain't a bad thing to be anyways. Oh yeah, one more quick aside. I did check out a good number of hits caught between years, around 100 or so, just in case something great slipped through the cracks, and, well, I didn't find anything I was immediately enamored with enough to contend with the hits I've already loved for years, but there were some bangers amongst that bunch, and a handful of them will be showing up in this section of the honorable mentions. Anyways, here's the best of them.
You make me this, bring me up, bring me down, play sweet, make me move like a freak. Mr. Saxo beat.
And hello again, Alexandra Stan. Yeah, Mr. Saxo Beat really is that song, a cool and quirky groove peppered with just enough of its titular sax to stand out amidst the crowd. Though, really, I can't think of any other hit that sounds quite like this. New Rules comes closest to scratching that same itch, I guess. Tis a bit small for how I like my pop to sound, but it's just so damn neat. Can this song make a comeback, please? Pro gender status update. Been feeling a lot less gendered in general as of late. I'm much more of an agendered creature. I'm a fox. So Pretty Girl Rock is no longer my gender euphoria jam, but I mean, it's still a hell of a jam all the same. I don't give the slightest damn what weird insecure dudes have to say about it. They're just wrong. Yep. Adorn's one of the coolest and most unique hits of the decade, in R&B or otherwise, and it helps that Miguel is easily the hottest dude of the decade too. Smooth and sensual in the way you can really feel, but it ultimately remains a song I respect more than I really love. Cool as hell though. I've literally already reviewed this song in another video, but can I just say, it's baffling that this of all songs is what'll go down as Muse's biggest hit stateside. Not Uprising, not Starlight, not Hysteria, not Plug-in Baby, Madness. That's both the song's name and also what that fact makes me feel. God.
If you're lost and alone, know you're sinking like a stone. Carry on.
Yep, as promised, here's Carry On. Like, I get where this can be motivational and inspiring to others, but my problem with it, and with the whole Some Nights album in general, really, is that everything sounds so synthetic that it saps the tunes of the warmth they're trying to convey. Just creates an emotional disconnect I can never get past. Fun have done better anyways, both in and out of their hit-making career, so...
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Hell, ditto for this one, honestly. Like, at least with Pompeii, the synthetic touches are a lot more intentional to create its manic, anxious feel, and it's got a hook for the ages. A tune so instantly memorable that Bastille could have and maybe should have retired on it. And god, this song has had so many lives you'd think it was a cat.
Fireball.
Oh yeah, we're up in here putting some respect on Mr. 305, or I guess Mr. Worldwide by this point. If you told me that Pitbull made a Latin-flavored flip of Walk This Way by Aerosmith and it slapped to high heaven, I'd have probably gone, yeah, that scans. Fireball's a banger. I'm mostly amused that it exists, but I'm definitely glad that it does.
Give me one good reason why I should never make a change.
I was originally gonna see if I couldn't brute force Budapest to number 40 on the overall ranking just to complete the bit, but I realized pretty early on that there were just way too goddamn many better songs and there was no way I could justify it. Anyways, this song is still literally perfect, and I'm never unhappy to hear it. We could have at least given George Ezra a few more hits over here, right?
Now I'm 4, 5 seconds from wildin', and we got 3 more days till Friday.
Yes, I know 4 or 5 Seconds was number 2 on my original 2015 best list. No guesses as to why the emotionally earnest guitar ballad hasn't held up as well. Look, I already put one Kanye song on the list. I sure as hell ain't gonna put on another one. Though I do feel really bad for how much I've snubbed Rihanna on this list. Wish I liked any of her solo hits more, but this is handily her best performance of the decade. Oh, and some third guy is here too, I guess.
Come on, let it go. Just let it be.
This Achingly Beautiful guitar ballad, on the other hand, is just as good as it was the last time I talked about it. Realizing that things just aren't working and there's really nothing you can do about it, and all you can do is, well, let it go. damn. James Bay probably deserved to have a few more hits stateside too. Elsa Frozen or something, I don't know.
Sometimes in the middle of the night, I can feel you again.
Better Man, not by Pearl Jam, is the kind of post-breakup song I really like. The kind of I love you, but I can't be in love with you, only wish that you were better sentiment that really cuts deep. Oh, and by the way, this song's not by Little Big Town either. Taylor Swift penned this, and by God can you tell. Probably why I like it so much, yeah.
Through the weekend, you like 9 to 5, I'm the weekend.
God damn it, you're telling me we could have been giving SZA more hits all this time and the world just refused to play along? The Weeknd has a pretty fun concept. SZA is such a good singer. She's very hot too. This song's the kind of janky R&B we really could have used more of. Definitely prefer this to Love Galore anyways.
I know it hurts sometimes, but you'll get over it. You'll find another life to live.
I feel like The Way Life Goes is the one song I'm gonna regret not putting on the list proper 5 years from now. Lil Uzi Vert apparently has great taste in samples, flipping the Oh Wonder original into a post-breakup simmer that's as sad as it is comforting. Nicki's here too, I guess. She adds exactly as much as she subtracts. Okay. Feels like this is a song I only really love in bits and pieces, but if or when those other pieces click for me, well, we'll see.
Yeah, we got it going on. Don't it feel so good to be us?
Cardi B is an absolute superstar. That's what Finesse tells me. She absolutely owns the show here, though Bruno makes his case by wailing his heart out in the pre-chorus, which I always love to hear. And yeah, the New Jack Swing style isn't exactly my favorite, but god damn it, this song still makes me smile anyways. They're just having so much fun. Ayy!
Wake up in the morning, I got murder on my mind. AK-47s, Mac 11s, Glocks and 9s.
And completing the bit, here's Murder on My Mind on the best list too. I don't have anything new to say about this song, and I will politely decline from saying anything about YNW Melly himself.
She told me put my heart in the bag, and nobody gets hurt.
So, a little behind the scenes note, Robbery was originally going to be the last honorable mention on my 2019 best list because I knew I liked the song, but I wasn't yet capable of putting in the words why. So when Juice WRLD passed away right as I was finishing up the video, I decided to yank what I felt like was a fairly disrespectful take on the song and replaced it with Goodbyes instead, a song I liked for similar reasons, but could better put in the words why, even if I didn't do a great job of that either. I'll remedy that one later, but for now at least, how do I feel about Robbery 5 years down the line?
I don't wanna leave, I just wanna be with you.
Well, at the very least, I can't earnestly call it one of the best hits of the decade, of its year at best, but it is an utterly fascinating and kind of heartbreaking wail of agony, a bearing of Juice WRLD's soul in a way that's almost hard to listen to. It's messy as hell and kind of embarrassing, but dude put his all into the song and that's what made it so compelling, for better or worse. Hope you're in a better place now, man, wherever you are. And that also got a bit too real at the end there, so let's make our way back to the list proper. Number 30. Right, I feel like being a bit of a tease, so here's something fun that happened completely by accident. No artist ended up notching more than 2 spots on this list, either as a lead artist or as a feature. Anyways. I'll give you some time to mull that over while we let this next song play out.
You got that James Dean daydream look in your eye, and I got that.
Of every song on this list, Style is the one that I feel like requires the least justification for its inclusion, cause like, this song has already gone down as a modern classic. Style was the make or break song for 1989 TV, and it sure as hell broke because the original was already as perfect as it could possibly get. I don't think Taylor's ever had better production than this. A synthwave jam so lush and enveloping, so texturally satisfying, it's just utterly gorgeous to listen to.
Say I heard, oh, that you've been out and about with some other girl.
And in hindsight, Style feels like an inflection point. It projects coolness and class in a way that Taylor had up to that point never really even flirted with, where she's trying to play it cool and laugh off all the red flags because the guy she's with is just too goddamn hot to let go of, where all that matters is what they have together right now, their past and future both be damned. Lust over love perhaps, but when it sounds this hot, can you really blame the sinner?
Take me out, just take me out.
I've never been quite as over the moon for this one as damn near everyone else has been, admittedly. The hook's not one of her best, it's a bit too stiff and stilted, and the Taylor Swift of 2014 wasn't quite capable of pulling off the level of sultriness the verses demanded of her. But like, those are nitpicks. I don't really care that much when it's still so easy to see why Styles got its reputation as one of the best pop hits of the decade.
We never go out of style. We never go out of style.
Number 29. And now, a moment of silence for all the artists who didn't quite make the cut. Beyonce, Usher, Charlie XCX, SZA, Childish Gambino, Sam Smith, Demi Lovato, Frank Ocean, Kendrick Lamar, Chris Stapleton. All beloved hitmakers of the 2010s, all deserving of recognition and honor, and yet not one of you made this list. No, I had to make room for Imagine Dragons instead.
The city never sleeps at night. It's time to begin, isn't it? I get a little bit.
And like, can you blame me? It's easy to forget after a decade plus of sludgy and abrasive radio menaces that Imagine Dragons' breakthrough hit It's Time was genuinely that good, was genuinely exciting. A tune that's really more folk than it is rock, led by stomping piano and vibrant mandolin, a sound so much warmer and yet harder hitting than the band would ever be after. Like, seriously, why is this their only song like this?
So this is where you fell, and I am left to sell. The path to heaven runs through miles of clouded hell.
It's a sound that slotted in perfectly with the indie boom of 2012, a year where it felt like everyone was looking for a fresh new start now that the turn of the decade high had started to fade, and It's Time met that zeitgeist magnificently. Like, leaving behind something you felt forced into, something you hated doing, to go off and pursue your dreams, to live your life. Oops, I feel that hard as of late, huh?
Now don't you understand that I'm never changing who I am? It's time.
Paired that with the nervous apprehension that comes with sacrificing the stability that school, work, or whatever else grants you in favor of carving out your own path with no real safety net, because no matter what happens next, at least you're goddamn happy doing what you want to be doing. Yeah, that more than anything is what made me fall in love with this song all over again. It's time to begin, and I ain't gonna stop till I get where I'm going. Number 28. Billy.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering? What do you know?
Is it weird to praise a song first and foremost for, like, sound design? Cause that's what stands out the most about Bury a Friend, and why it works as well as it does. Every little noise is in just the right place to create that feeling of creeping, lurking horror where the tension and dread rise with each passing second. It's like a sensory experience more than a song, which, are there any other hits like that?
I wanna end me.
I get the same kind of tingles and goosebumps listening to this song that I imagine other people get from ASMR, something I've never been able to get into because I just cannot stand the sound of whispering. So thank God Billy smartly decided to sing just enough above a whisper so as to not fall into that uncanny valley. And she brings a night endless string of hooks along with her, even with how graphic and uncomfortable the lyrics themselves can feel.
You talk would be something that shouldn't be said out loud. Honestly, I thought that I would be dead by now.
I am just so utterly entranced by this goddamn excellent song, man. Billie Eilish and Finneas are gonna go down as one of the best tag teams in music history, if they haven't already. It's just so rare that songs this small do it for me, but Bury a Friend makes it work by leading so far into horror that you can't even blink for fear that you'll never open your eyes again if you do. Maybe you should be afraid of the monster under your bed after all.
Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? When we all fall asleep, where do we go?
Number 27. So, this next song is the first one that'll probably surprise some people of how low I've placed it here, but...
Look, go and fix your makeup, girl. It's just a breakup running. Hide your crazy and start acting like a lady. 'Cause
Yeah, my original segment on Mama's Broken Heart was the first time I felt like I really knew what the hell I was doing with this music reviewing thing. A segment I was so proud of that I made that video my first premiere ever just because of it. And while I definitely wouldn't have written the same segment nowadays, I'm a lot mellower than I was back in late 2020 for obvious reasons. I'm still always gonna have a lingering affection for this song because of that.
can't get revenge and keep a spotless reputation. Sometimes revenge is a choice you gotta make.
Like, it doesn't get me as riled up and angry as it used to, but it's still just as transgressive and fiendishly fun as it's always been, and Miranda Lambert is clearly having a blast playing up this good girl gone wild character. Turns out revenge can be as good a time as you want it to be. The song's just an absolute barn burner, laced with the kind of venom that'd piss off the average country bro. Tomatoes my ass.
Go and fix your makeup, well, it's just a breakup.
Mama's Broken Heart is easily the most violent and feral hit of the entire decade. A song that flips tables and outdated norms on their heads in a righteous act of catharsis. A song that gets me thrashing and headbanging along to it every time I put it on. A song that's just too damn fun to deny, even if it's not something that fits my mood nowadays. Don't mean I can't still choose to love it, though. Number 26. I'll say it louder for the people in the back. This deserved to be the biggest hit of the decade, damn it.
Let's go.
Party rock is in the house tonight. Everybody just have a good time.
I was prepared to do everything in my power to make sure this song made the final list, cause like any best of the 2010s without this song on it is just wrong. Sorry, I do not make the rules. This is the song that defines the 2010s. You will not change my mind. Thankfully, I didn't have to do anything because Party Rock Anthem is just that good and always has been. And really, it's all thanks to that drop that changed the world as we know it.
Shake that.
If LMFAO had been even the tiniest bit more respectable than they were, I don't think the song would have been half as good as it is. It needs to be dumb, it needs to be obnoxious, it needs to demand your attention in a way you can't bring yourself to look away from, so it can then invite you to join in on the fun with it. I'm half convinced the music video isn't even staged, it's just what happens when the song starts playing, because I know that every goddamn time this song comes on, I can't stop myself from getting out of my chair and grooving along.
We get mine, don't be mad, now stop. Hating is bad. One more shot for us, another round. Please fill up my cup, don't mess around.
Couple all that with a monster of a hook, a nigh endless stream of quotables, down to the title itself. Party rock is such a stupid phrase, you're damn well never gonna forget it once you hear it. And an absolutely killer groove packed to the brim with boundless energy, and you've got yourself the ideal inflection point between the club boom and the festival EDM wave that damn well deserves its spot as one of the biggest hits of all time. Party rock into eternity, you crazy bastards. No need to apologize for it.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Number 25. Right, now then, who's ready for some whiplash?
Let me photograph you in this light in case it is the last time.
Adele needs no introduction. She's one of the greatest talents of our generation. She's one of the very few artists who sounded nothing like whatever else was popular all decade long, and she's just so goddamn good at making music that makes you feel. When We Were Young paints such a full picture of who Adele was at the time, caught between regret and wistful nostalgia, creating the final goodbye to an ex-lover she wished she could have had in her mind to try and replace the memories of the one she actually had.
And I swear you moved overseas.
Where the song is almost like a song of mourning, of recounting all the memories she has of and with her ex-lover, both the good and the bad, and then laying them to rest. Where there's an aspect of like knowing this is probably the last time she'll ever see them, in case it is the last time, cause you never really know, do you? At the very least, the connection they had is dead, and When We Were Young is its eulogy. It's her way of making peace with that past.
Do you still care? It was just like a movie. It was just like a song.
You can hear her nearly start crying on the bridge, and man, I'm right there with her. It's the kind of adult, nuanced, and bittersweet song about heartbreak that does it for even a hopeless aromantic like myself. Just so goddamn beautiful. The only real limiting factor of Adele's music, at least for me, is that the type of music she makes isn't something I ever really seek out on my own time, but I'm always glad to hear it all the same.
It was just like a song when we were young.
Number 24. Alright, and now back to some good old-fashioned cheesy fun.
I know that we'll be safe and sound. We're safe and sound.
I don't really have anything deep to say about Safe and Sound, other than that it's exactly the kind of synth-pop I like that's got just enough personality to stand out. Capital Cities embraced the chintzier side of the 80s while modernizing it just enough so as to not date itself too badly. The end result feels weirdly timeless in the sense that it feels detached from anything and everything else happening around it.
I can lift you up. I can show you what you wanna see and take you where you wanna be.
And both singers are so wholeheartedly throwing themselves into their uplifting proclamations of love and togetherness, even amidst a world that's crumbling all around them. It's cute. They're kinda cornballs, but in an endearing way. Gotta be at least a little bit goofy to be charming, you know? Anyways, I have literally nothing else to say about the song other than that it has so many cool little moments that it's more productive to just point them all out. Like, the way the drums drop out to give the trumpet space to announce their presence for the first time.
We're safe and sound.
Utterly majestic, and the way the song peels back towards the end only to slowly build before coming back in at full force.
Even if the sky is falling down, I know that we'll be safe and sound. I can lift you up.
One of my favorite tropes in music. Every song should do this, actually. Really, I appreciate how the song rarely ever repeats the same musical ideas in the exact same way. It's just so dynamic. But the absolute best part has gotta be that choppy bridge in the middle.
We're safe and sound.
Hell yes, just plain awesome. The moment that makes the song. I don't really have anything else to add. I just love listening to Safe and Sound so goddamn much. And it's not even their best song. We could have given them at least one more hit, man. Number 23. We've reached the funny number again. And you know what's really funny? Sheer terror. You know, it took me way too long, but I think I finally get it now.
Timmy Turner, people wishing for a burner. The kid, everybody running. You know it's on the phone, public beat.
Not Future, who Designer was so obviously ripping off here, but rather what Timmy Turner does that makes it so special, makes it so effective at scaring the crap out of me. Like, I've complained a lot about trap songs overstuffing the mix with non-stop ad-libs in a way that's uncomfortable and oppressive, but this song knows that and uses that to its advantage to sound as horrifying and claustrophobic as it does. That and some fantastic production work, of course. Jesus Christ, those synths.
Timmy Turner, young boy walking with you for a party. 4, 5, 6, 10 matches on 10 niggas with a 10 clapping on.
And like, that's not to let it go underappreciated how both tight and yet loose Designer's melodic flows are here. Like, sure, he's a ripoff, but he's way better at the bit than the original article, at least at the time. He sounds utterly unhinged and unintelligible in the verses, and while the uber repetitive chorus is a lot more subdued, that really only grants it this like hypnotic effect, slowly drawing you further and further into the darkness until a ray of light shines through the clouds and breaks the spell.
Timmy Turner, people wishing for a burner. The kid ain't walking, you know that it's on the front.
Where the overstimulating ad-libs and oppressive synthscapes get pulled back for a much warmer, lusher, piano-driven outro, and it's just so blissful, so euphoric. A release of 2.5 minutes of tension as peace washes over you, envelops you, takes you away. Timmy Turner is like an experience more than anything, in a way that hits rarely ever are, and way closer to outright horrorcore than anything. All for a strange little song about a beloved cartoon character going on a killing spree. Sometimes weird stuff just happens, man.
Kid ain't walking, Lord, it's on the burning. Timmy Turner.
Number 22. Hello again, old friend.
Let it go. Seasons change and our love went cold. Feed the flag 'cause we can't let it go.
Here it is, the last hit song of the 2010s. The very last song released to make the 2019 year end. And it's nigh impossible to explain why I love this song so goddamn much because, like, you just had to be there, man. You just had to. Which, look, I've already written 2 whole best of segments about Circles by Post Malone, the only name I will ever refer to it by, and I wouldn't be shocked if I end up writing about this song again in, say, 6 years' time, so I'm gonna keep this one brief.
We couldn't turn around till we were upside down.
Circles by Post Malone hits so hard because it just sounds like nostalgia. It's got an instantly iconic bass line, it's got such a good sing-along hook, but more than that, there's this, like, ethereal and washed-out texture to it that makes it sound like trying to recall the kind of bittersweet memories you wish you could forget, but can't help but look back on fondly anyways. Helps that it's a song that came out just before the entire world went to hell in early 2020, a song that practically stands as a testament to better days, a song that makes me at least a little bit wistful every time I hear it. And when I set out to make this list, I was certain, absolutely positive, that Circles by Post Malone would finish in the top 10. And yet, here we are, only number 22. I don't know about you, but that's wild to me. I guess the seasons changed and my love went cold. Well, lukewarm at the very least. Still goddamn excellent all the same.
Run away, but we're running in circles. Run away, run away, run away.
Number 21. Average Space Oddity enjoyers when a former boy band member tries to make their own Space Oddity be like,
Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times.
and I've already written 2 best list segments about this song as well, one of which y'all will never see, but really, my thoughts on this song haven't changed much in the past year or so. On pure sound alone, Side of the Times is probably the best rock hit of the entire decade, and Harry Styles commits himself so thoroughly to the pastiche in recreating the tones, textures, melodic structures, and just belting his ever-loving heart out over it all, that it can't help but win me over through sheer scope and power.
Remember, everything will be alright. We could meet again somewhere.
It's the kind of song that's definitely about a specific thing, the death of a loved one and trying to cope with the grief in the aftermath of their funeral, but sketched just broadly enough that anyone going through tough times of their own can get something out of it, can feel emotional catharsis through it, can feel uplifted by it, and by God does it ever soar.
We got to get away. We got to get away.
Harry Styles asserted himself as the breakout star of One Direction by just making a song so damn good, so timeless and yet distinctive from the stagnant rock scene at the time that it earned him a career all by itself. The kind of gorgeous and bombastic rock that I can't get enough of, and a sign that maybe rock and roll will never truly die so long as there's someone out there who loves making it. Alright, that's half the list down. Time for another quick break for some honorable mentions. Some of these songs were in contention for the list, some of them weren't, but they all have one thing in common: they're pretty dang rad. David Guetta on a Flow Rider song from 2010, I am going to produce one of the best choruses of all time and then never make anything good ever again. The rest of Club Can't Handle Me is there too. It's cute, it's fun, it's the best Pitbull song, I will not elaborate on that.
For the first time.
For the First Time was the kind of right place, right time song that came into my life just when I needed it, but it is tragically no longer the right place nor time. I mean, yeah, it still hits at least a little bit, it's cheesy and earnest in all the ways I love, and the tune itself's bloody gorgeous to listen to. I just don't feel that special connection to it anymore, and that's fine.
I wanna see you again, but I'm stuck in colder weather.
Oh, okay, y'all were right all along. Colder Weather is that good. A tale of two lovers never quite finding time for each other, be it circumstance or a lack of willingness to fight the status quo until it's too late. Yeah, okay, fine, you got me. Not something I want to return to much, but it's goddamn beautiful whenever I do.
We could have had it
Rolling in the Deep rightly made Adele a household name, and it's as much an apocalyptic stomper as anyone has ever said it is, and I ain't gonna contest that. But we'll be seeing Rolling in the Deep but better later on in this video, and I just don't love it quite the same way everyone else seems to, even if it's still, you know, awesome.
In too deep, can't think about giving it up.
Wait, what? Yes, Trey Songz had a good song in him after all. Like, Heart Attack is basically just an early stage Bruno Mars song of how over the top and melodramatic it is, but that's fine. I'm the kind of cool kid who's always liked that style. It's wonderfully dated. Maybe a bit clumsy at times, but it sounds big, and I like when songs sound big. Man, I was cracked for putting this at number 2 on my 2013 best list, huh? Like, I still love I Will Wait, it's as soaring and triumphant as it's ever been, and that climax still hits like a ton of bricks, but there's really nothing special about it that Miss Mumford & Sons catalog, or the indie folk scene as a whole, really. It's just nice music I enjoy a lot. Little Talks is better though, yeah.
You can't have my heart and you won't use my mind, but do what you want with my body.
R. Kelly? Who's that? Let's listen to Lady Gaga and Christina Aguilera be gay for each other, alright, honey? Like, for real though, Gaga is just so goddamn good at making pop music that even Christina not really working here doesn't hurt Do What You Want even the tiniest bit. And it's gayer, I mean better, I mean gayer this way. Yeah, gay.
I gotta stay high all the time to keep you off my mind. Ooh.
Habits parentheses Stay High is another one that's basically just a Diet Sia song, but unlike Never Be the Same, I can all too easily compare this to its superior counterpart, a battle that never even stood a chance at winning. It's a truly miserable song, parentheses complimentary. Shame Tove Lo never made any other songs ever. Here is a classic case where the song is like incredibly smart in its writing and execution, definitely hashtag relatable, and having an honest-to-God trip-hop song on the charts in 2015 was a quaint little novelty, but it ultimately pans out to being a song I respect more than I actually want to listen to. Super cool though, for sure. By this point, Wildest Dreams practically exists more as a talking point than an actual song to me. It's such a good execution of a good concept and so iconic that I can't stop myself from referencing it when talking about other, usually better songs. At the very least, it's the Taylor Swift song that Dragon Force covered. So that's gotta mean something, right? Generally, I prefer to see it reach that fails over something playing it safe, but man, The Weeknd flew just a little too close to the sun with In the Night's content, and I just cannot get past my hangups with it, even if the song itself sounds goddamn great. Though he's gone on to make much better sounding songs since, so not one I see myself having much of a reason to return to.
If we go down, then we go down together.
Proof positive that everyone, and I mean everyone, gets at least one. Paris is the common denominator of the millennial spirit in song form, a perfectly good pop song that isn't remarkable in any way, but is just nice to listen to. Good on you, sick boys.
Young, dumb, young, dumb, and broke. Young, dumb, dumb, and broke.
As the last remaining Khalid fan on the planet, I will continue to enjoy Young, Dumb, and Broke for the breezy and charming little song it is. I just really like Khalid's vibe. I like Khalid's thing. It's not the best thing in the world, and this isn't the best version of that thing, but it's cute. It makes me smile. I like it.
I'll wear my black suit, black tie, early in the back.
It's fitting that Boyfriend Country's strongest moment was Marry Me, a song about not getting the girl, because that's the reality of music like this. Who is it for? People who didn't get the girl and want to imagine they did, that's who. It's the kind of bittersweet and mature sentiment that still gets me all up in my feelings, even if it's not a song I come back to all that often.
Blame disrespect, you nothing like the nigga I met. Talk to me crazy and you quick to forget.
Dear God, Be Careful is one of the most brutal diss tracks I've ever heard, and yes, I am perfectly aware of when exactly I'm saying this. It's not the most elegant song, and Cardi B isn't the most eloquent lyricist, but Jesus Christ, this woman is pissed, and the chilled out beat just lets that rage really simmer. Realest song of the decade, I swear.
Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Nothing feels better than this.
Okay, Better may actually be the best version of Khalid's thing. It's damn close if not. Just chill vibe music that I vibe with, the kind of lush soundscape you can get lost in, with a hell of a final chorus and outro to top things off. Vibes, I love them.
Breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing. No, I gotta keep on breathing.
Man, I miss this version of Ari. You can't just roll up with one of the most powerful and striking voices of the decade and then close the door on that and act like it never happened, girl. We know what you can do, and Breathin' is a great version of it. Even the timeless and relatable messaging aside, it's just a really goddamn good pop song. We need more hit songs of solos if you ask me. Anyways, that's enough faffing about. Back to the list. Number 20. I mean, I'm a bird. I don't even believe in ceilings anyways.
Alright, okay. Return to the Mac. Get up what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit me get up.
I feel like what made Macklemore such a likable personality is that 1, he dropped onto the scene at just the right time when people were already starting to get sick of the status quo. 2, he had ambitions and his tunes reflected that, though it helped that they were damn good tunes too. And 3, he generally just wanted to have a good time without ever taking himself too seriously. And like, man, I relate to all of that.
Raise those hands, this is our party. We came here to live life like nobody was watching.
And while Thrift Shop may have been the song that got him through the door, Can't Hold Us was a song that proved he was worth taking seriously, worth keeping around. A self-fulfilling prophecy of finding success as an independent artist that's just reaffirming to hear. Mac never sounded tighter and more on point as an MC as he spat humble but confident bars about his own come-up and background, invoking the prestige of hip-hop classics as a show of love for his own genre, while also establishing himself as someone who deserves a place amongst those same greats.
So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Ray Dalton's chorus is anthemic and addictive, and if Ryan Lewis ever turned in a better production job than this, I haven't heard it. The kind of slow burn where I'm never quite sure about it at the start, but as the tune builds more and more, the more I get into it, until by the end I'm having the time of my goddamn life bouncing along to the beat. It's truly one of the best hype anthems I've ever heard. Just plain awesome and just plain fun, man. Number 19. Right, it is now officially later. Time to talk about that Sia song I promised 20 spots ago. Damn, it sucks that Sia was so good at making music. Music that sounds massive, music that sounds passionate, music that's just so weird and off-kilter in all the ways I love. Where Sia herself finds all sorts of unusual melodies to sing in stilted, unsteady cadences on top of the jittery and choppy percussion, all while the production swells louder and louder as the song shambles onwards, filling up every last bit of empty space in the mix as if it's trying to drown out all the doubts and anxieties that have taken hold in her elastic heart.
And I was there tonight. Your lips be clear, won't close my eyes.
And all of that is in service of creating a feeling of instability and vulnerability. Like, she is not okay after this breakup, and she knows it, yet she's still trying to project confidence anyways. And the longer the song goes on, the more overwhelming and overstimulating its massive wall of sound gets, and the more Sia's voice rises above all that chaos. Despite that, the more you're forced to believe her, believe in her. God, I love this song. It's the kind of go for broke pop that I absolutely cannot get enough of. If you can't tell by now, I just love when music is big, man. And Elastic Heart is my kind of big, my kind of thrilling. It gets my heart racing at the very least.
I got an elastic heart.
Number 18. Oh man, the me of 10 years ago would kill me for putting this one so low.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw.
But that's the thing. Some Nights is a song I feel like I've outgrown, at least a little, but on the other hand, I mean, it is still Some Nights by Fun, so yeah, if I'm still singing and stomping along to this one January every time I hear it, it can only have shrunk so much, you know? And again, it circles back to the sheer level of ambition, a genuine rock opera lacking any real structure or chorus that still manages to be melodically rich and anthemic as all hell.
This is it, boys. This is war. What are we waiting for? Why don't we break the rules already?
And sure, Some Nights is no less synthetic than Carry On, but because it's not trying to be as warm and intimate and is instead shooting for bombast, it doesn't really matter. Hell, in some ways it almost works in the song's favor, where the mechanical production fits perfectly with Nate Ruess's anxieties about getting lost in the machine of the music industry.
So this is it. I sold my soul for this. Wash my hands of that for this. I missed my mom and dad for this.
What I hear in this song is a man clearly conflicted about the idea of being famous, where Ruess, after his brief brush with fame, after looking back at his journey to the top, at everything he had to give up and everyone he had to leave behind just to attain it, decided that he did in fact hate the idea of being a star and promptly receded into the background to become a respectably successful songwriter instead.
Well, some nights I wish that this all would end, 'cause I could use some friends for a change.
And now he's happily married and has a family and seems to be living his best life, and you know what? Good for him. He finally found what makes him happy, even if it was a bit of a journey to get there. And it's not like the music he gave us is going anywhere either. Seriously, check out Aim and Ignite, y'all. Still holds up to this day if you ask me. And if nothing else, Some Nights is a time capsule of a song that's still as singular and special as it ever was.
For the best you didn't listen. It's for the best we get our distance.
Number 17. Back in my original list, I had two songs from the same artist essentially tied for the same spot because I genuinely could not decide which of them I liked more. I am now delighted to announce that I have finally made my decision. And can I just say, how the hell did I ever think this and Him for the Weekend were even close in quality?
Like I'm alive again.
Adventure of a Lifetime is so special to me because it pairs Coldplay's greatest strengths, their ability to write gorgeous and lush rock tunes, with a goddamn stellar funk groove that brings their usually languid sound to life in a beautiful way. And like, I think I get why the video is like that, because yeah, it has rock and funk elements, but it is at its core a dance song. It just triggers that primal instinct to groove along, so much so that even the most primitive form of man can't help but get up and boogie.
Turn your magic on. With me, she'd say.
It's the kind of music that just feels good to listen to, a running theme of a lot of these higher entries. Colorful, vibrant, and so warm and inviting that it picks up an almost magnetic quality to it. Certainly one of the songs here I came back to the most. I just love it so much. It's so comforting, reaffirming, even in its bittersweetness.
If we only got this life, this adventure, oh, that
And Adventure of a Lifetime feels so much more special because it was one of the few songs that really met the zeitgeist of 2016, the gloom and stress of a world that felt like it was going to hell, and instead of sinking down to its level, saw the silver lining and rose above it all to become stronger together. It's for the first time, except way more fun, basically. Yeah, I think this is more where I'm at right now. If I've only got this life, then I'm gonna be the best goddamn diamond I can be. Number 16. And yet, if you ask me what the best rock hit of the decade was, well, there's really only one answer I could ever see myself giving.
I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way. Driving at 90 down those country lanes.
I already talked Castle on the Hill to death just over a year ago when it topped my best of 2017 list, so I don't have all that much to add that I didn't say there, cause it all still rings true. It's a soaring rock song that sounds like the nostalgia trip it is, where Sheeran reminisces on the long gone days of his youth and how the passage of time has changed him and everyone he knows, where he mourns the loss of the innocence that made his childhood feel so special, but cherishes the memories he made along the way.
15 years old and smoking and rolled cigarettes.
But one thing I missed at the time, and I don't know how I missed this, but what Castle on the Hill is about just as much as anything is family. His friends he grew up with are just as much his family as any of his blood relatives are, and being with them is what makes his home feel like home. And that gets to me just as much, if not more so, than Sheeran's anxieties about growing older, because I, and most queer folk honestly, can definitely relate hard to that feeling of found family.
It's the way you make me feel. It's real.
And like, even when the song isn't getting me all up in my feelings, it's still a hell of a tune just to listen to. Driving and upbeat, equal parts delicate and bombastic, so warm and gorgeously textured, and Sheeran's got a hell of a good voice for rock. Shakti doesn't lean into it more. Castle on the Hill is at its very worst a rollicking good time, and at its best, an emotional bombshell of a tune that I can tell is gonna age with me like fine wine. Number 15. Don't believe her lies. There is no number 15. The Starbucks lovers were never real and we're all being gaslit.
I can make the bad guys good for a weekend. So it's gonna be forever, or it's gonna go down in flames.
In most every aspect, Style is probably the better song. Better production, a stronger emotional core, a fantastic performance from Taylor herself, but I've always liked Blank Space more because it's just so much more fun. You can tell she loved recording this song, so many sly little chuckles and snarky inflections in her voice. Ooh, look at me, I'm the bad guy everyone always says I am. Isn't that silly?
Ain't it funny, rumors fly, and I know you heard about me, so hey, let's be friends. I'm dying to see how this one ends.
But, she says this is a joke, but like, she keeps making this song over and over. Reputation was an entire album of leaning into the role of the villain. Midnights was defined by its most self-defacing track, a hole she only seems to have fallen further down on her most recent album, and even the Folklore duology has a scattering of tracks in the same lane. Taylor Swift cannot stop making blank spaces.
Screaming, crying, perfect storms. I can make all the tables turn. Rose garden filled with thorns.
It's something she's so plainly insecure about that it adds a level of pathos to the song, a level of vulnerability. It makes the whole song come off more like deflection than a playful joke, no matter how well she commits herself to the performance, and it almost makes you regret having so much fun of it at her expense. Almost, but not quite, because like, she is still having fun despite it all, you know?
Don't say I didn't warn ya. So it's gonna be forever, or it's gonna go down in flames.
Oh, and I prefer how the song sounds to Style anyways. Like, yeah, it's not as lush, it's just Taylor playing in the contemporary pop space. It's basically just a Lorde song, but honestly, I like this sound. I like Lorde songs. And there's such a great sense of rising action throughout, building all the way up from nothing to an absolute juggernaut of a climax. The hook is an absolute earworm. It's just such a good tune. It's her best hit this decade, and one that's really only gotten better the more Taylor psyche has unraveled over the years. For better or worse.
Got a long list of ex-lovers. They'll tell you I'm insane, but I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name.
Number 14. And yet, Blank Space is no longer my favorite hit of 2015 because...
So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans.
And frankly, I can't even really tell you why. Photograph is a really pleasant song that I really enjoy. It sounds so nice, so warm and comforting, it just feels good to listen to. And really, that's the only reason I need to love it, but, well, I feel like I gotta plumb at least a little bit deeper into why, even if I can't quite find the words, so here goes.
I swear it will get easier. Remember that with every piece of you.
It's like when we were young, mashed up with wildest dreams. See, there's me doing that thing again. There's almost something like liminal about Photograph, about all three of those songs really, where Sheeran is trying to capture that feeling of transience, that spark of love, that fleeting memory into something real, something physical, something he can look back on in 50 years and have all of those feelings come rushing back to him.
And if you hurt me, that's okay, baby. Only once, please.
And yet he chooses to give that photograph away to the woman he loves because the love he feels for her is so strong he knows he'll never forget it as long as he lives, and all he really wants is for her to remember him just as fondly. Our lives are a culmination of the memories we make after all, and capturing those memories in something real, something that lasts, lets them persist long, long after we're gone. Ultimately, Photograph gets to me so much because there's just something so fundamentally human about it. Yes, I'm aware of the irony, caw, but that's just it. Even if I still can't quite put my finger on it, there's just something so earnest and heartfelt about this unassuming little tune that I can't help but love. It's a song I know I'll be keeping close to my heart for years and years to come.
Hearing you whisper through the phone. Wait for me to come home.
Number 13.
Wait till you're announced. We've not yet lost all our graces.
Oh, and Blank Space isn't the best Lorde song of the decade either.
They don't dance and tell. We live in cities you'll never see on screen. Not very pretty, but we sure know how to run free.
Yet another song in the it just feels good to listen to camp, but what Team has going for it the most is that it's probably the catchiest hit of the decade. It's utterly unreal how sticky every last melody is, and Lorde just sounds so happy to be singing this song. Pair that with an incredibly swingable groove and some wonderfully warm synths, and you've got a perfect little pop song that's just, I just think it's neat, you know?
Now bring my boys in. They're skinning craters like the moon.
And Team has a brand of populism that works, where Warriors can feel a little preachy. Instead of focusing more on the rejection of glamour, it focuses more on the reality of the average person. And despite their imperfections, despite how unremarkable they may seem at a glance, at least they're getting stuff done and still having fun along the way. They may not be living out their wildest fantasies, but they've at least got each other, and that's enough. It's uplifting and inclusive simply by focusing on what's right before it, what anyone can see, anyone can touch.
I'm kinda older than I was when I rebelled without a care. So there.
Oh, and Lorde herself has said it's a song about feeling like one of the boys, so Team is a trans masc anthem if you want it to be. Not really a ton else to say about this one, it's just a delightful little song that I can't do much more than give my biggest thumbs up. Wings up? Bit too close to putting my hands up in the air, but sure, why not?
We're on each other's team. And you know, and you know, and you know.
Number 12. One thing I've come to realize about myself over the years is that I like music that stands alone, songs doing something different, sounds you'd find hard-pressed to hear anywhere else. And at least as far as hits go, this and a lot of other songs on this list, there just aren't any other hits that sound quite like them. But all that really does is make them special, like shooting stars in the night sky.
Switch on my core if I kill any pain. Look what you done.
Starboy is the kind of song that makes you feel cool just for having listened to it. Like, sure, it's a massive hit, but it's still got those underground cult classic vibes to it anyways. As groovy as it is ominous, so pristine and polished to the point of sounding kind of uncanny, it's just one of the best sounding songs of the decade, period. It's too good to be a hit, right?
I'm trying to put you in the worst mood. P1 cleaner than your church shoes.
But like, the man who made The Hills a #1 hit can make anything a hit, and Starboy really only could have come around in that period of time between The Weeknd, the hipster darling, and The Weeknd, owner of the biggest hit song of all time. It's a lot like Some Nights in that it's basically just Abel going, I'm famous now and I kinda hate it, the key difference being that he eventually grew into it. Like, the guy who makes Blinding Lights is fully secure in his success, and history vindicated that confidence.
I'm a motherfucking starboy. Look what you done.
When those claps come in on the chorus, I always start reflexively clapping along, which I imagine is what happens when he performs this song live, and I am absolutely certain that being there for that is akin to a spiritual experience. It's just such a great piece of music, on top of a rare moment of vulnerability from a man so committed to his persona that it can be hard to see behind the mask. But for one brief moment, we were able to look at what we've done, and to his face we replied, damn, this beat slaps.
I'm a motherfucking starboy.
Number 11. We're right on the edge of the top 10 now, so who better than Gaga to be our Charon and ferry us over to the other side? All things considered, The Edge of Glory is probably one of the least special songs on this list. What it is everything that the 80s were, condensed and refined into a hell of a pop song. The glamour, the excess, the cheesiness, the go for broke attitude, the sheer spectacle of it all. A love letter to a bygone era that's not really notable in any way other than that I'm genuinely not sure if anyone has ever done it better since, either in or out of the mainstream. It is actually just that damn good.
Another shot before we kiss the other side. Tonight, yeah, baby, tonight, yeah, baby.
Lady Gaga is just so good at making pop songs, and she throws herself into this one like her life depended on it, because, well, maybe it does. After all, glory is for the dead, not for us living who are endlessly fighting to reach the summit. You can only be remembered at your best once there's nothing else left to remember. And by God did Clarence Clemens go out on top. The unintentional pathos injected into this song by his passing really only made what was already one of the greatest moments in all of 2010's pop, hell, all of pop music period, let's be honest here, shine even brighter. And as the icing on top of what was already a perfect pop song, it's just so much, so goddamn glorious. A celebration of everything pop music is and could be, brought to us by a woman who loves pop music more than anyone else ever has, alive or dead. God bless you, Gaga. Woo, what a rush! And as much as I'd love to rush into the top 10, we've got one last round of honorable mentions, and brace yourselves, y'all. Here's where all the bombshells drop. The Culling of the Sacred Cows, the This Didn't Make the Lists, the last cuts from this list. And we're starting off strong with...
It's a 1:15. I'm all alone and I need you now.
I think I'm done lying to myself about the plain and simple truth that I just don't love Need You Now as much as everyone else seems to. I overrated it by a lot on my original best list, just because I got swept up in the critical hype, and while yes, I do think it's a really beautiful and heartbreaking little tune, I just can't relate to it, and that's fine.
So this is me swallowing my pride, standing in front of you, saying I'm sorry for that now.
Back to December, on the other hand, is a song that's kinda just shrunk on me over the years. Like, yeah, still one of Taylor's most precocious hits, a really good tune about accepting things as they are, even if it's sad, even if it's your fault, that still gets me all up in my feelings. But strip away the recency bias, and the flaws in the production become too flagrant to ignore. I just can't get past how cheap those guitars and strings sound. These were the kind of hairs I was splitting putting together this list, y'all. It's not her best, but it's still up there for sure. Me when I am vindicated by history.mp3. Yeah, between this and Adorn, Sure Thing is the kind of gimmicky R&B tune that does it more for me. It just sounds so much lusher, it's way catchier, and Miguel is just so hot. I cannot stress that enough. Letting yourself be incredibly corny and earnest is good, actually. Girls like that, I promise. I'm not one, but I know, okay?
Cause there'll be no sunlight if I lose you, baby.
Melodramatic Bruno was always good, and y'all just need to catch up to my level. Like, okay, you could make a case that It Will Rain is a very douchey song, and you wouldn't be wrong per se, but I have decided not to care because I simply like the song too much. It's a gorgeous little tune that makes me feel things, and that's all I could ever ask it to be.
Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven for too long.
Throwback Bruno is better though, yeah. Though Locked Out of Heaven is really more the inflection point between the old Bruno and new Bruno. It's both a jam and the bearing of his soul. I just don't like it quite as much as 24 Karat Magic. And it's incredibly funny that after putting this in the honorable mentions of two separate best lists, when given one last chance to rectify my mistake, I instead opted to cockblock it for the third and final time. Oops.
I came in like a wrecking ball. I never hit so hard in love.
Oh damn, this didn't make it? Miley Cyrus throwing herself fully into an earth-shattering power ballad about an unstoppable force losing to an immovable object and whipping up a maelstrom in the aftermath, one of the greatest and most bombastic hits of the decade, and I did have Wrecking Ball on the list for the longest time, but something just kept nagging at me until I realized the production. It's the production that's the problem. It's just too cheap and thin. It's not doing enough to back up Miley, so she has to try and carry the weight of the entire song by herself, and she just can't. Maybe Dr. Luke always sucked at his job, actually. Come With Me Now is the kind of song that makes no real sense as a hit, one of the coolest and most unique of the decade, with so many moving parts and so much unique flair that you kind of have to respect it if nothing else, but I find it just a bit too abrasive in all the wrong ways to really do it for me. It's more neat than something I find myself actually wanting to come back to listen to, that's all.
I got my mind made up, and I can't let
And here it is, as promised, rolling in the deep but better. Okay, I kid, but Love Runs Out has that same stomping soul groove, but it's just, well, a lot groovier, a lot more fun. It's got killer hooks, it's got a jaunty, inviting feel, it just pops the hell off, man. Not sure my enjoyment of it goes much deeper than that, but who says it has to? Is Uptown Funk the most basic possible version of what it is? Yes. Was it overplayed to hell and back? Oh, definitely. Is it a bit too close to the new disco sound that's become grossly oversaturated in the decades since? Absolutely. But have you considered Uptown Funk gonna give it to you? Don't believe me, just watch.
When I see you again.
Even knowing how fake See You Again is, neither Charlie Puth nor Wiz Khalifa knew the guy this song is now about, and it wasn't originally about that guy either. There's just something universal enough about its mournful but uplifting sentiment that I can still hit in the right circumstance, no matter how cheesy or dated it may be. Damn, who knew?
I will never forget you. You'll always be by my side.
Another song kept off the list for having that one thing wrong with it and not really being all that special besides, but don't let that undersell how gorgeous and vibrant Never Forget You is as a slice of late 2010s electropop. But like, that drop, man, why?
I know a sad soul, sad soul.
I Took a Pill in Ibiza is another one of those critical darlings I still love, but have just never loved quite as much as everyone else. It's got a dark and sparkling groove paired with a sobering story of post-fame depression, but also, I just can't get past how, even through all of Sieb's vocal processing, you can still tell Poster singing it like a Wigwag song. And still great all the same.
If you're gonna let me down gently. Don't pretend that you don't want me. Our love ain't water under the bridge.
Water Under the Bridge feels special because, like, I'm just not used to Adele songs sounding lush in this particular way, and there's a really nice swing to it. It's a fun Adele song, one where she sounds genuinely happy, even in spite of all her anxieties, and it's just, Adele is so good, y'all. One of the very last cuts, and it was a painful one.
You gon' pray for me, take my pain for me, save my soul for me, 'cause I'm alone to see.
Man, we need more songs that sound like Pray For Me. Like, yeah, it's basically just Starboy if it were more of a rap beat, which, I'm more than okay with, and both The Weeknd and Kendrick are on top of their game here, but the song just gets a bit too shaky in its back half for me to be able to fully sign off on it. Again, the hairs I had to split, y'all. And yes, this was the closest that Kendrick came to making this list.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
And here it is, the former best list topper that didn't even make my top 40 of the decade. And, it wasn't even close either. Like, it's still great, but given enough time and distance from when the party's over, I just didn't find myself wanting to come back to it very often. It's just not very replayable. You really gotta be in the right mood for it to hit, and the more you hear it, the less shocking and emotionally impactful it becomes. Beautiful little tune, but Billy's done better since. And coincidentally, the 50th and final honorable mention just so happens to be the very last cut from this list, the honorary number 41, and who better to earn that honor than, the White Iverson guy and his Vuvuzela? Okay.
I want you out of my head, I want you out of my bedroom tonight.
But like, Goodbyes is just such a wonderfully bitter, angsty wallow in all the worst feelings that come with the end of a rocky relationship, set to one of the best chord progressions in any hit song this decade, where Post's voice has never fit the tune better. And hey, I even get Young Thug's verse now.
And I want you to never go outside. I promise if they play my nigga slide.
Like, he's basically just a stand-in for a proper guitar solo, right? He's definitely saying words, and I do not give the slightest damn what they are because the melodies are so damn good. Goodbyes is by far the best of the language scene of pop trap, and it's a hell of a tune on its own merits. I just couldn't quite convince myself to pick it over Never Be the Same or 24 Karat Magic. Sorry, Posty. Sorry, Thugger. You were so close, though.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye. I'm no good at goodbyes.
Anyways, right, there's nothing left to do but finish this. It's time for the final stretch. The top 10 best hit songs of the 2010s. Number 10. Father, forgive me, for I have sinned, and this is my penance.
Well, you almost had me fooled. me that I was nothing without you.
It was only a year ago that I tried to untangle my complicated feelings towards Praying, so what changed? Well, the song itself didn't. I still stand by what I said. Praying isn't as important as it felt back in 2017, but it's no less powerful for it, and it's a hell of a song too. A hell of a performance.
I hope you're somewhere praying, praying.
But it's a song I've always felt a little bit distant from because it simply wasn't made for me. It was made for Kesha, for any and all survivors of abuse to find catharsis in. It'd just feel weird to me to partake in someone else's deeply personal catharsis. All I can do is look at it from the outside and respect it for what it is.
You brought the flames and you put me through hell. I had to learn how to fight for myself.
And what it is Kesha sending a message to the man who ruined her life. I will never forgive you for how you wronged me, but it's not my forgiveness you should be asking for. You need to fall down on your knees before God and beg for his forgiveness because that's your only chance to escape eternal damnation.
I hope you find your peace, falling on your knees.
It's a show of maturity, of strength, of being able to move on with your life despite everything you've been through. It's powerful as it's ever been. So what changed if not the song itself? Well, I did, obviously, or rather my perspective on the song, what I'm looking to get out of it. Because, okay, maybe I can't relate to Kesha's situation here, but goddamn if I can't be proud of her. Proud of how goddamn strong you have to be to even make a song like this.
I'm proud of who I am.
Which, screw it, Praying is a pride anthem. It's for survivors of abuse, it's for victims of bigotry, victims of war. It's an anthem for anyone too busy being their goddamn selves to waste their lives away fixated on the people who would try to bring them down. It's an anthem for anyone who refuses to shine any less bright despite how many people try to snuff out their flame.
Sometimes I pray for you and
And of goddamn course I'm gonna fall head over heels for a song like that, especially one this raw, this powerful, this earnest. The only reason I can't justify putting Praying any higher here is because it really isn't the kind of song I can come back to all that often. It's just so much, so goddamn much. In a good way, mind you, just the kind you need to keep special for the moments where you really need to hear it. A release for when you just have to scream out to the heavens that you exist and that you'll keep fighting the good fight no matter what. But in those moments when it does hit, yeah, it really is just that special.
please pray.
Number 9. If I had to point out one running theme across this list, it'd be nostalgia. And if anyone's song was gonna do it best, of course it's gonna come from the only man who loves music as much as I do.
Saying don't go. When I think about you, I think about 17. I think about my OG. I think about the stars in the sky.
Springsteen is the kind of song that makes me think about all the friends I've lost contact with over the years more than anything else. Wistful, but not in a mournful way, just like some things are behind me and won't ever be ahead of me again, huh? That's life. It is what it is. And Eric Church brings that feeling to life with a tune that just sounds like that wistful nostalgia, like a half-remembered melody from days gone by brought to life anew.
To this day, when I hear that song, I see you standing there on that lawn. Discount shades, store-bought tan, flip-flops and cut-off jeans.
It's a song about the power of music, how it can become intertwined with a time, a place, a feeling, and simply listening to it can bring those long-buried memories back to the surface. And it's just, well, a damn great piece of music. Mellow and almost unspeakably beautiful, yet subtly catchy, too. The kind of song that gets stuck in your head without you ever realizing it. The song proving its own point, really.
Even though you're a million miles away, when you hit on in a USA, you relive those glory days so long ago.
And in its own weird way, I've kinda become nostalgic for the song itself. It's been 5 years since I first heard it, and, well, suffice to say, 2019 was a messy and miserable year in my personal life, where the only real beacons of hope were the cornucopia of amazing albums that came out that year, alongside finally taking the plunge and starting my channel anew so I could have a platform to talk about the music I loved. And right in the midst of all that, Springsteen came into my life out of the blue, bowled me over, and became its own wistful little memory in the process. It was practically destiny, huh? When those backing vocals join in towards the end, like Church's memories come to life, and he steps back to let them play the song out as those memories fade back into eternity, yeah, can't lie and say I don't shed at least a tear or two. Maybe the past will stay in the past, but damned if I ain't glad it happened at all. Number 8. Number 8 is a synth-pop song about being overwhelmed by an intense source of illumination. It's not pecking blinding lights, you filthy memers! Let's try this again. And if you're wondering, no, I did not put this here for the bit, it just naturally ended up here and I just couldn't help myself. Sorry!
You show the lights that stop me, turn to stone. You shine me when I'm alone.
Another running theme throughout specifically the top 10 is that I just love songs that sound cosmic, otherworldly, extraterrestrial. What I'm trying to say is that I am in fact the Portal to Space Core in bird form. Hell yes, space! And Lights wins me over just on the basis of that alone. That and by being trance adjacent. Friggin' love me some good trance, man. But it helps that it's also a fantastic pop song that nothing else this decade sounded anything like.
And I think back to when my brother and my sister slept.
Supremely catchy and danceable, colorful and atmospheric, and even a little bit spooky too, for good measure. One of the song's biggest triumphs is how rhythmically satisfying it is, and specifically in its vocal lines. The way Goulding weaves in and out of singing on and off beat is just so satisfying to listen to. And her somewhat mellow voice is perfect for the low-key, ethereal vibe of the song. Why she didn't ride this sound to the bank is an utter mystery to me.
You show the lights that stop me.
Everything comes together perfectly to create such a kaleidoscopic soundscape, and it's just utter bliss to listen to. There may well be no other hit this decade I want to listen to more. And I pondered whether Lights really deserves to be up this high just on pure sound alone, just for how goddamn much I want to blast it at full volume until my ears bleed, but like, it's such a singular entity in the pop landscape, I can't help but find it special in its own way. Number 7. Yeah, this one's practically cheating, but I got a feeling nobody's really gonna complain all that much.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night.
I Got a Feeling is what being happy to be alive sounds like, and I love it so goddamn much, y'all. The Black Eyed Peas made a party song so good, so iconic, so infectious, and sent everyone to the club for at least the next few years. Like, I kinda don't even know what to say about this song. It's just so perfect.
I know that we'll have a ball if we get down and go out and just lose it all.
See, I Got a Feeling gets right what so many other party songs fumble the bag on. It's not telling you to have a good time, it's a bunch of guys having a good time and inviting you to join them. If you want to, of course. No pressure. The Peas in this song are your fun-loving friends calling you up to ask if you want to go out to the club with them, and you're free to turn them down if you're just not feeling it. And that's just so important, man.
Fill up my cup,
Drink,
Mazel tov. Look at her dancing, just take it up.
And the sentiment of this song is less, life is good and we're going to celebrate that, and more, tonight's going to be a good night because we are going to make it a good night. No matter what the rest of our day was like, no matter how bad things are in the world at large, we need this. We will have the good time. It's like a coping mechanism more than anything. It's comforting to hear. It just makes me happy, I don't know.
Tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. Feel it.
Though the most quietly impressive aspect of I Got a Feeling is that for a 5-minute song, it sure manages to keep itself fresh, keep the energy going without ever feeling tedious or drawn out. The Peas keep the party going simply by constantly finding new ways to have fun. That one choppy bit towards the end especially.
Here we come, here we go. We gotta rock, 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 rock. Easy come, easy go. Now we on top.
Makes me move in mysterious ways and I cannot get enough of it. And the production is just so beautiful, so warm and inviting. Another thing a lot of the club hits that came in its wake missed. It's just such a nice tune to listen to. It makes me happy to be alive and I just can't get enough of it.
Tonight's gonna be a good night.
Number 6. I mean, look.
It's our party, we can do what we want.
I said it at the start, and I'll say it again. I'm not here to justify why a song is on this list, to defend my picks, to tell you why you should like it. I'm only here to explain why I like these songs and what they mean to me. And I cannot stress enough how goddamn much I love this goddamn song, y'all. It was almost inevitable that I Got a Feeling and We Can't Stop ended up back to back on this list because in most ways they are the exact same song, where the club boom started and where it ended. The former is about partying because you're too happy to be alive to let life keep you down, and the latter is what it sounds like when that exact same party goes sour.
Red cousins, sweaty bodies everywhere. Hands in the air like we don't care. Cause we came to have so much fun now.
Where there's an undercurrent of desperation to the whole thing, friends clinging onto each other for comfort and doing drugs they probably shouldn't be because they've got nothing else to turn to. Where Miley's trying to keep the energy going, playing the hype woman, and she literally can't stop because if she does, the spell is broken and everyone goes back to feeling as miserable as they look.
Da-da-dee-da-dee, when we like to party, dancing with Molly, doing whatever we want.
But like, in the moment, they're all still happy, you know? We Can't Stop captures that moment of youthful euphoria that you can never get back, where you're making decisions that you might regret later, but you don't regret that it happened either. We know Miley herself doesn't regret it at the very least, and if she isn't judging herself with 10 years past, who are we to do so?
Remember, only God could judge ya. Forget the haters, cause somebody loves ya.
That's like the other thing We Can't Stop does that makes it so special. It creates a judgment-free space where anyone can be themselves, do whatever they want, and be happy doing it. They still love each other, even if nobody else does. And I just think that there's something quietly beautiful about that, almost therapeutic. Something everyone needs to hear every so often to remind them why life itself is so special.
It's my mouth, I can say what I want to, lady.
And like, to be clear, yes, I am fully aware of how unintentional so much of this song's pathos is. Practically every bad thing anyone has ever said about this song is absolutely true, except the weird judgy ones. Y'all are just freaks for those, lol. And I completely understand disliking it for all the same reasons I love it, but the fact that it's so unintentionally revealing and emotionally vulnerable is what makes it so compelling to me, what makes it so human.
Can't you see it's real about the life? We can't stop, and we won't stop.
When that final stretch of the song hits and Miley really starts wailing her heart out over the utterly beautiful pop production, where you can tell even she's starting to feel the adrenaline wear off and knows that the magic circle they've all made for themselves is about to dissipate, can't lie and say I don't get more than a little tearful. Man, it's simultaneously one of the saddest and happiest songs I've ever heard, but like, that's just what life is, ain't it? Number 5.
Right now I'm in a state of mind. I wanna be in like all the time.
Right now, I'm in a state of mind I want to be in like all the time. If more relatable words have ever been spoken, I haven't heard them. Hit it.
Picking it up, picking it up. I'm loving, I'm living, I'm picking it up. I'm picking it up, picking it up. Loving, I'm living, so we turn it up. Yeah, we turning it up.
If you asked me which song on this entire list I most wanted to listen to right this second, it's this one. It's No Tears Left to Cry. Next question. Like, y'all, I cannot stress how goddamn good this song is, how good it feels to listen to. It's fun, it's soaring, it's intimate, it's hot, it's just good goddamn music, man.
Right now I'm in a state of mind. I wanna be in like all the time.
The way I see it, there are two Ariana Grandes, the one who can belt to the heavens and the one who's sassy and chock full of personality. This is what happens when they make a song together. Ariana at her maximum power, and the slick as hell two-step groove behind her flatters both those sides. It's just so punchy, so colorful, so gorgeous. And there's just something so life-affirming about this song, grasping onto a feeling you've never felt before, where all you know is that it makes you happy to feel this way and you want to keep feeling it for as long as you possibly can. Really, that's how I'm trying to be lately too. Holding on to optimism and living my goddamn best life no matter what life tries to throw at me in return. Also, like, we all agree the second verse is about queer positivity, right?
They point out the colors in you, I see them too, and boy, I like them. I like them. I like them. We way too
Yep, I'm gonna call No Tears Left to Cry another Pride anthem, and goddamn if it isn't one of the most reaffirming ones I've ever heard. Like, yeah, okay, maybe I am still feeling a little bit girlish, because this song absolutely gets me up on my real hot girl shit, and by God can this girl sing. No Tears Left to Cry is just one of the most breathtakingly beautiful pop songs I've ever heard, one that stands as a shining beacon of hope amidst the absolute nightmare of a world we're living in. A song for Ariana to lift up not just herself, but anyone who's willing to join her for the ride of a lifetime, and she's so plainly and obviously having the time of her life that you can't help but believe she means every last word. At the very least, I know it's a ride I'm gonna be taking time and time again.
Picking it up, loving I'm living, so we turning up. Yeah, we turning it up.
Number 4. She used to be so good, man. She was so good.
Back coops up and chop the boots up.
This top 10 is jam-packed of songs that are the most at whatever they are for me. The most cathartic, the most wistful, the most compelling, the most life-affirming. And Super Bass's claim to fame is, plain and simple, being the song that brings me the most joy.
This one is for the boys with the booming system. Top down AC with the coolest system. When he come up in the club, he be blazing up. Got stacks on deck like he's saving up.
It's a big, dumb, happy love song painted up in the most eye-searingly bright shades of pink I could find. The concept of love so perfectly distilled that if you looked up the word in the dictionary, the damn book would just play this song back at you, somehow. Don't question it, just enjoy it, okay?
When I think I like I'm better with the fitted cap on. He ain't even gotta try to put the Mac on. He just gotta give me that look. When he give me that look, then the pennies coming off.
And God, when Nicki was on top of her game, was she ever on? She's funny, assertive, and charming in equal measure, brimming with personality to the point that it's hard not to get overwhelmed by it. The kind of girl that boys want to be with and girls want to be with. In a gay way, yes. What? Don't lie to yourself, she's hot as hell here. I'm asexual and even I can tell.
I can tell that you're in touch with your feminine side. Yes I did. Somebody please tell him who the F I is. I am Nicki Minaj, I mack them dudes up.
Even more than that though, Super Bass just sounds like the pop song of the future, a future we never got, and I'm still mad about that. So colorful and cosmic, so sugary and upbeat, just absolute ear candy. We could have gotten at least a few more songs that sounded like this, right? And of course, all that's tied together by, well, one of the best goddamn choruses I've ever heard in my life. Has there ever been a melody so immediately infectious and yet so endlessly replayable? Yes, one other, which we will be getting to in just a bit, but like, goddamn, even the runner-up is still just solid gold. I don't know, man, sometimes a pop song is just one of the boom-ba-doom-boom best pop songs of all time, and there's really nothing you can do but accept it, you know? Number 3. And thus, here we are at the podium, the top 3. All songs I consider personal all-timers, all of them former list toppers, none of them particularly surprising. The only mystery left to unveil is, in what order? Well, frankly, I don't really think it matters all that much. On any given day, I could easily call any of them the best hit of the decade, but at this very second, this is the truth I've settled on. I mean, what else is there to say? It's just the best Adele song, you know?
Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best of you too.
I've noticed that a lot of the more emotional cuts on this list are ones that touch on a lot of more refined and mature emotions, even from Adele herself, so it's deeply ironic that Someone Like You, the best of them all, is a song that paints itself up in those same aesthetics of maturity and respectability for a shockingly immature song, where age 21 feels way closer to still being a child rather than a full-fledged adult.
I heard that your dreams came true. Guess she gave you things I didn't give to you.
Whereas When We Were Young and Back to December are about accepting things as they are and trying to move on, Someone Like You is about not being able to accept it, even if there's nothing you can do to change it. All you can really do is stew in your worst feelings, and those feelings will cause you to make mistakes, ones you may well end up regretting just as much.
I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away, I couldn't fight it. I had hoped you'd see my face and that you'd be reminded that for me it isn't over.
For me, it isn't over, she says, but for him, it is and has been all the time she's been spewing venom at him. Does he even care? Is he even listening? We may never know. It's a reminder to us all that no matter how wronged you were and no matter how much righteous anger you feel about it, you still aren't perfect either. Nobody is.
You know how the time flies only.
But what someone like you does for Adele is purge all of those thoughts from her mind. Paint herself up as ugly and unsympathetic as possible, show the world her worst self, and then put it to rest. It's ultimately a song about growing the hell up and getting over yourself, a level of emotional maturity that some people never grow into, much less at age friggin' 21, and thus that number starts to feel a lot more adult after all, huh?
Don't forget me, I beg. I remember you said sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead.
For me, at least, someone like you makes me tear up just by how it sounds. The lonely piano, the anguish in Adele's voice. You can again hear her choking up trying not to cry in that last chorus, and Jesus Christ. There's a primal sadness permeating out this song in a way that few other songs have ever matched. Something so deeply heartbreaking yet so much more reflective of reality than most songs like it. Few songs have ever sounded more human than this one. So yes, onto Anti-Crow it goes. Sorry, Adele.
Sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead.
Number 2. The main reason I made this list is because of the number 1, which I would consider my personal favorite hit song of the entire decade. I don't know if it's outright the best, but it's damn near close. Peck it, close enough.
Turn back till I lose God.
The most intense hit of the decade, the most cathartic hit of the decade, the most goddamn metal hit of the decade. A song I've heard plenty of punk and metal covers of, and not one of them even comes close to matching the sheer power of the original, because this is the exact right way the song should sound. Chandelier is probably just the most in general, and it really comes down to how much of herself Sia puts into her performance here. So much it hurts. When this song comes on, time itself stops to make room for it. Everyone else in the room turns to look at that crazy chick swinging from the chandelier and screaming to high heaven. And no matter how much they want to turn their eyes away, they simply can't. It's too compelling to look away from, watching Sia have the time of her life and maybe even death.
Party girls, don't get hurt, can't feel anything. When will I learn? I push it down.
If We Can't Stop is throwing a party to keep your mind off of where your life's headed, then Chandelier is what that sounds like once you've already hit rock bottom and have nowhere to go but up. If The Edge of Glory is dancing right up to the edge of death itself, then Chandelier is what it feels like in the moment after you jump off that edge, that fleeting feeling of freedom and weightlessness before you come plummeting down.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, drink. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, drink. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, drink.
In a way, Chandelier is both one of the most miserable and yet euphoric songs I've ever heard. The kind of song that utterly overwhelms my senses, gets me down on my knees belting out every last word, shredding my own voice in the process, but goddamn if it doesn't feel amazing. God, I'm so goddamn happy to be goddamn alive. Honestly, I'm pretty sure this is still my favorite hit of the decade. I just could not justify putting it over the song that topped this list, but like, my god, this song is just so damn much, you just can't come back to it all that often because of how exhausted and out of breath it leaves you. But at the end of the day, it's just the one I feel the most, the one I feel like I most need to hear. Cause like, these days, aren't we really all just holding on for tonight, every night?
No, I'm just holding on for tonight, on for tonight, on for tonight.
Number 1. But at the end of the day, there really was only ever going to be one song to top this list. I mean, the last time I covered this song, I called it not just a perfect pop song, but the perfect pop song, and that hasn't stopped being true, so... Bad Romance is not the most at any one thing. It's not the most upbeat or exciting hit of the decade, it's not the most intense hit of the decade, it's not the most emotionally resonant hit of the decade, hell, it's not that at all, and frankly, it's not even the weirdest hit of the decade, but what it is the song that gives me the most, has the most. So many things I love about pop music in such great excess that it's one of my favorite songs of all time on the sole basis of just being really, really good. Like, it's got the best hook of the decade, hell, quite possibly the best hook ever, I'm not really sure what tops it. It's got Gaga at her absolute most Gaga, chock full of personality, over the top and weird, even a little bit obnoxious, but like in a fun way. It's got verses that have literal jump scares baked into them. Which, like, again, I'm out here praising sound design of the hit song, but Jesus Christ, every single last note, every last noise, every last effect is so perfectly placed and the whole song just sounds goddamn good because of it. It is a literally flawless song, but it's not perfect in the way that implies. No, it's messy as hell, abrasive and off-putting at times, but never so weird as to fully alienate even the most casual of listeners. And it has the single best stretch of music to touch the charts, like, ever. An entire uninterrupted minute of actual genuine pop perfection, the most beautiful rising action any bridge has ever built that slams headfirst into the most satisfying payoff possible. Chills all over my body every time. I'm kind of at a loss for words here. Like, what do you say about a song that is quite literally too good for words? You don't, you just listen to it. I love every single last thing about Bad Romance, and I love that there's just so goddamn much to love about it. It's my favorite hit of the decade simply because it's the song I like listening to the most, and for absolutely no deeper reason than that. And at the end of everything, this culmination of the last 5 years of my channel, the last 5 years of my life, I'm proud to finally be able to say Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, the best hit song of the 2010s and one of the best songs ever made. Thank you all for joining me on this journey over the past 5 years. I am done with this godforsaken decade, and none of y'all can make me talk about it ever again. I kid. It's been a fun ride, and I've certainly grown a lot as both a person and a critic over the years, but I can't say it's not at least a bit of a relief to finally be done. Anyways, on the subject of that whole changing over time thing, here's all my updated 2010s best list to play this broadcast out. I've been Crow, and have a good night, y'all. Radio Cacophony signing off.